Hi guys, welcome back to The Wargamer, and in this video we're going to be looking at another Rubicon Models kit. Now this is the M4a2 76W Sherman tank. Now this particular tank was not really employed on the Western Theatre, it was actually employed by the Russians under the Lend-Lease agreement, as you may have already noticed from the artwork on the box here. Now in this video, instead of just looking at the sprues and then building the actual tank off screen and talking about it afterwards, I'm actually going to be building this tank as I go along and give you some of my thoughts and opinions on the features and also the kit itself. So let's get started and get this tank built. So the first part of this kit that I'll be assembling is the turret. Now this kit actually comes with two different turret variants. We get the late production T23 turret and also the early production T23 turret as well. Now I'm actually going for the late production here, which is denoted by the single circular command hatch and the smaller oval hatch, whereas the early production had two circle hatches. So as you can already see, I've already attached my gun barrel to the mantlet. Now this mantlet is posable, you can move it up and down once it's attached to the actual turret itself, and you also get a couple of different options for the gun barrel. You get a regular one and also one with a muzzle brake, which you can see is the option I've gone for here. We also get a couple of variants for the pintle mounted machine gun. We get a wargaming variant, which is slightly more sturdier, and we also get a model maker's variant, which is a little bit more realistic and to scale, but probably won't hold up to the abuses that wargaming tanks tend to have. The next part of this tank that I'm assembling is the hull itself. Now this is actually mostly just one single piece. This has all of the panels, all of the storage items already glued down onto the surface, which does actually save an awful lot of time. It's also very well detailed considering it is just a single piece. In fact, the only items you actually need to affix to this hull are the front two hatches, the hull mounted machine gun, the lights, and also the barrel rest as well. Now I'm continuing to assemble the hull here, but this time I'm focusing on the underside of the hull. Now, much like the rest of the tank, it consists of only a few parts, which means you can actually assemble it very quickly indeed. Now even for a fairly basic part of the tank such as this, we do get a couple of options. For example, we get two different variants of the drive housing at the front of the tank, and we also get the option of adding in some exhaust deflectors to the rear of the tank as well. So whilst I finish off assembling this hull, let's just talk about the material that we're using here. Now this is an ABS plastic, it's very well detailed, very rigid and sturdy, but instead of using a regular polystyrene cement, you will need to use something a little bit different. Now I'm using a glue which will work with ABS plastic, and that is a Plastic Magic. Now I've done a video on how to assemble Rubicon kits, but it's useful to know anyway when you come to assemble your miniatures, because it just makes life so much easier if you're using the correct glue. So next up we have the tank tracks, and as you see them here is exactly how I remove them from the sprue. They come as pretty much a single piece, so the whole front side of the tracks is visible, and the only thing you need to do is glue on the drive sprocket and also the rear sections of the suspension as well. I've always been a big fan of how Rubicon handle their tracks. They're very easy to build, but also can be left off if you want to paint them separately before gluing them to the tank, which is especially useful considering how much detail Rubicon actually put into these areas that might not be seen otherwise. Now I should also note we actually get two different track variants in this set. We get the regular tracks and also those with the duck bill extended end connectors, which I've gone for here, which results in an overall wider track. The only thing left to do before we actually assemble the tank fully is to glue on some storage racks to the rear of the tank and also glue the top of the hull to the bottom side of the hull we assembled previously. So before I finish assembling this tank, let's talk about some of the components themselves. Now everything's very well detailed and also very well cast as well. It makes it life a lot easier when you don't have to scrape away mold lines or cut away bits of miscast sprue or anything like that. So it does actually save an awful lot of time. I'm also really impressed by the sheer number of different options and details that you get in this set. You can really make this tank your own, and there's also a great deal of depth presented in the instruction booklet as well. It's very, very useful material when deciding which tank to assemble, and also giving you some background as to why certain variants were used, and also when certain variants were used as well. It's these extra details and features which allow this tank to transcend just being a basic wargaming vehicle, and puts it in league with some of the more complex model making kits out there. So with all the individual parts glued, let's put them together and take a look at the finished tank. And here we have the fully assembled M4a2 76W Sherman tank. Overall, this was a very fun tank to build. Lots of the components fitted together really nicely, the instructions are very clear, and all those optional extras really give me some thinking about what components I wanted to go where. It's also very quick to build as well, which is surprising considering how nicely detailed this tank is, but the details such as the whole track sections really sped up the build process. So if you're after picking up one of these tanks for yourself, they're available in many different wargaming stores, so just check out your favourite provider for them. Now, I won't actually include any links to those shops, but I will include a link to the Rubicon Models website for this particular tank, so you can read up on some of the history and also some of the other features about this kit as well. If you enjoyed this video, please do let me know in the comments below. I've changed up the way I do these unboxings. I would really love to hear what you thought of this new format. And so the only thing left to say is thanks for watching, and goodbye.